every time there's a report, it's now, the Mets are looking at Michael Lorenzen. The Mets are looking at Julio Teheran. And then you go back to last week. The Mets bring in Choi to maybe fight for DH spot. They bring in Luke Voigt. So they are acknowledging that they need help. The season is a month away. Opening day is a month away. Actually, less than a month away, right? March 28th coming up. And they acknowledge that they need pitching and they need a DH. There are pitchers and DHs out there. And yet, while I understand the plan, neither of those moves, bringing in a DH or a pitcher, would destroy that plan for the future. Steve Cohen needs to go out there and do something because it's starting to bother me now as a Met fan, even an understanding Met fan.
I'm going to help you today, and I think that I'm going to be able to help you today because I'm not emotionally invested in this year. And Cohen's got the checkbook. Obviously, it's his team. Stearns has the power. And that's the way it's supposed to be until Stearns proves, if he does, that he doesn't deserve the power anymore. David, and I know that this is going to be frustrating for you. I know it. And I get it. If I was Sal, if I was Evan, if I was Met fans around the station, I'd be sitting here saying the same thing. We don't really have a third baseman. Call Chapman. Maybe get a cheap deal. Need some pitching. Get Montgomery. And Montgomery, by the way, will not compromise the future.
Well, that's the point.
I understand that. But, Sal, the Mets have been forever searching for sustained success. And whether or not David Stearns is able to adjust to the big market style of eventually having to spend, David Stearns knows how to build a baseball team. He went 4 straight playoff appearances with a limited budget. They won 95 games one year. I know they didn't do anything in the playoffs there, but he built a roster that was good. To hire Stearns and not let him do his job would be dumb. I get the frustration. I think in the long run, this is going to pay off for you guys.
Maybe that's fine, but I want it to pay off now to a certain extent. I'm not saying that. Look, I'm accepting that they're not going to be a World Series team. I'm accepting they're not going to be a division winning team. I am not accepting them knowing that they have areas of need going into this year and going after Michael Lorenzen or Julio Teheran or Choi or Voigt. Like, you obviously need help. We've all been saying that. We know that the pitching, the starting rotation going into the year was thin to begin with. Then they lose Kodai Senga. Who knows how serious that injury is going to be. Even next year, they're going to need pitching. Why not look at Montgomery, assuming the price comes down a little bit? And by the way, even if it doesn't, come up with a deferral so you could figure out a way around the luxury tax hit this year, and you still have him here locked up next year. Now, I'm not saying that Montgomery's going to make him that much better, but there is something to be said about exciting or pissing off the fan base ahead of opening day. And the Mets are doing the latter. There is no excitement. Other than, I'm a Met fan, and I'm going to be excited to watch Pete Alonso hit some home runs and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's no juice. If you made a move for a DH, for a starting pitcher, at least you feel a little bit better. And I don't think it's going to break the bank. And by the way, it's Steve Cohen. It shouldn't be worried about it. I'm not trying to say waste money in a year where you know you're not going to be competing for the World Series. I get that. However, it's Steve Cohen. The beauty of having Steve Cohen as the owner is that you're not supposed to worry about nickel and dime type stuff. If you need a DH, you go get a DH. If you need a pitcher, you go get a pitcher. Not bargain bin shopping with Michael Lorenzen and Julio Teheran or Luke Voigt or Choi. I mean, come on, what are we doing here?
Well, you're resisting. Well, I mean, quite literally what the Mets are doing is they're resisting the temptation to appease you and to appease the fans. And there's value in that. I'm in all sincerity, I'm not minimizing fans feeling good about their teams going into a season. But I honestly, I commend the Mets. Like, the Mets right now are doing, I think, the hardest thing to do, especially in this city. They are tuning out the noise. They are tuning out the agitation from the fans. And they are moving forward with their plan.
But why can't they do both? Why can't it be a plan?
Because I think there'll be better players out there next year that could actually.
But how would J.D. Martinez on a 1-year deal? And by the way, even forget that. I'll give you I'll suck it up and sit there and watch Beatty and Vientos play third, and maybe Vientos a little bit DH with DJ. So fine, you could actually make a case where that makes a lot of sense. This year, you want to see what Beatty can do. You want to see what Vientos can do. I'm not buying it. I think Vientos stinks. I don't think Beatty's much better, but I'll buy that. Go get a pitcher then. There's no way, and I don't want Blake Snell, and I think he's a better fit for the Yankees. We've gone over that.
Yep.
And I do understand why they wouldn't go all in for Montgomery, but the fact that he's still not signed, they then lose Kodai Senga. while I don't think it's a good idea to panic and pivot and just go get a pitcher because one is down, I will make the argument that they need Montgomery next year anyway.
Let me ask you this, Sal. Do you think that Steve Cohen's cheap?
I don't.
Okay, so
but I'll tell you this.
Go ahead.
The moves this offseason, they have been cheaper.
Have they been cheaper, or have they been made out of the need to evaluate what you have? And that's the difference. I get it. You know that.
Who's better, Luis Severino or Blake Snell?
Oh, well, there's no doubt. It's Blake
Who's
Snell.
better, Luis Severino or Jordan Montgomery?
Montgomery.
Right, so this is a cheaper move bringing in Luis Severino. Now, I understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's value there. You could potentially, the upside for him, you're getting great value. However, Steve Cohen is not cheap. His actions speak louder than anything else. He has shown that. He went after Yamamoto. So they acknowledge they need pitching. Is this just David Stearns doesn't like Blake Snell or Montgomery? Okay, right, maybe I'd buy that.
And by the way, there's a lot of teams that don't like Blake Snell because Blake Snell doesn't sign a contract.
Same with Montgomery. So they're obviously overvalued, and maybe the contract will come down a little bit to where they jump in. Fine. But you're telling me that David Stearns like Michael Lorenzen more than he does Jordan Montgomery?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
But that's what they're looking at. Do they need a DH or not? And if they do, or if they don't, then why are they looking at Luke Voigt or Choi?
Well, they just try to strengthen numbers, and really, it's a one-year rental. Oh, dude, I'm not selling you on the prospects of a good season. It's going to be a tough watch here. But I promise you this, at the end of the season, you will have a definitive answer on Vientos, on Beatty. You will get the intel that you need to move forward with intelligent decisions. Now, I look at this, you know, I don't even know if you do this because you don't like cutting grass, you don't like shoveling snow.
Yeah,
so I really don't think that you like going into your garage and cleaning things up in the garage, do you?
Yeah, I do like organizing.
Oh, you do?
I love organizing.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So you'll understand this. You'll feel this because you actually do it. Imagine going into whether it's your bobbleheads, that stuff that you have to organize to move, or a garage where and certainly as the kids get older, now there's bats and balls and gloves and cleats that you outgrow in a year, and there's everything everywhere, and there's chairs, and there's 3,000 bottles of water in the fridge, and shovels and sleds, and it's craziness, right? Bikes. Dollhouses that we outgrow, everything. Right. And you go through, you open the door to the garage and you look at the mess that is probably, for me, 3 weeks away from me attacking.
Right.
Now, before I attack that mess, I've got to plot out, because otherwise it will be frustrating and it will be without reward and success. If I just dive into it haphazardly, let me take this bat here. She outgrew these shoes from Ballerin. No. You've got to have a plan so that the disorganization becomes organized. And what the Mets are, and I do believe that this is the right thing. I do. What the Mets are doing now is they're sifting through the rubble. They are systematically understanding what they want to keep, what they want to throw out in the trash. They are cleaning up their garage. That's what they're doing.
Which is fine, but if you're cleaning up your garage and trying to rid yourself of that junk, why the hell are you looking at Michael Lorenzen and Julio Teheran and bringing in Luke Voigt and Choi? BT and Sal on the Fan. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. I think the thing that's starting to bother me, and I've been patient with this, and I do believe in Steve, and I do believe in Stearns, and I think that next year it's going to be a totally different story. I believe in the future of the Mets. I believe in the plan. We're starting to get closer to opening day. It's becoming a reality that I'm going to have to watch a crappy baseball team. I know it's crappy. They know it's crappy. And they're not doing, like the moves are still there to be made. Go do something about it. Greg is calling from Westchester. What's up, Greg?
Hey, as a longtime Met fan, I just feel like Sal's being way too harsh, and I actually agree with the non-Met fan, Brandon, on this. Sal, do you realize they had Luke Voigt last year in the minors? It's not like they went out and got somebody. He's a depth piece. Before they got Choi and Luke Voigt, their first baseman in their system was J.T. Schwartz, who's like a double-A guy. It's just depth. And you know what? Believe in what he's doing. He's trying to build a system. Brandon's right on track. And that's all I just wanted to say.
Yeah, let's go, Mets. Thanks for the call, Greg. Yeah, everything's great. I mean, come on now. It's easy for BT to say as he sits there with that smirk because you're going to get to watch Juan Soto and Aaron Judge.
Well,
I got to watch Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos and DJ Stewart.
No, I got news for you. What if Vientos hits 25 home runs?
Yeah, okay.
How many did he hit last year?
Come on, dude. Come on. Vientos.
So you are
and again, I said
a shred of optimism going into the season.
I think Mark Vientos is not a good baseball player.
Okay.
Matter of fact, let me retract that. I know Mark Vientos is not a good baseball player. Now, could he provide some offense at DH? Maybe. I don't think so. I like DJ Stewart as a player. I think he could be a productive player. And I'll live with that. I'm telling you, like, I've usually, as a fan, I have the highest expectations and would hold them to the highest of standards. This year, I understand. I understand the plan. I really do. You can't tell me that they couldn't use Jordan Montgomery moving forward.
I'm not saying that.
How would Jordan Montgomery...
But you'd rather have Walker Buehler next year.
Yeah, well, but the reality is they need both.
I understand that.
Okay, so let's just paint the scenario, right? No Jordan Montgomery this year. He signed somewhere else. Blake Snell signed somewhere else. Next offseason, Luis Severino, free agent again. Sean Manaea, right? I mean,
he signed a 2-year deal,
Oh,
Manaea.
did he?
Yeah, he's the only one of the group that signed 2.
Oh, great.
So
Sean
if he
Manaea
stinks,
will
you
be
got him
back.
the extra year.
Yeah, great.
Take solace in that.
Yeah, great. Sean Manaea will be back next year because that's, really, he's a stud. Quintana, is he a free agent at the end of the year? I think he signed a 2-year deal.
I think this is it for him.
Me too. Point is, they're going to need pitching
I understand
next year
that.
anyway.
Yep.
So even if they get Walker Buehler, you're telling me they're not going to need to add another pitcher? Jordan Montgomery is a guy you slot in, you don't worry about him, you pencil him in, he'll be fine in the 2-3 slot, whatever it may be, down the road. You're going to need another arm anyway. Well, and he would help you this year. Now, I know he's not the difference, and I've been making the case in supporting the Mets, saying that, yeah, I get it. I understand why they want me. That would
You
be
just
the guy.
get a little itchy. Sun's coming out. Birds are starting to chirp. Grass is starting to thaw out a little bit. Sal's getting a little... the reality's hitting you that your team is going to stink. And I've told you this all winter, but it's ironic that I'm the one telling you today that to become good, you have to stink.
Understood. Well, no, that's not true. They shouldn't have to
So
stink.
they've got to get the evaluation. They have too many kids in the
fine,
system.
But
Sal, they've got too many players
Michael
that
Lorenzen
are...
and Julio Teheran?
but they didn't sign them.
Yeah, but they are acknowledging that they need pitching.
I know. They've got needs everywhere, quite frankly, outside of really first base, shortstop.
No, you could... I think
How
you can
many
make
needs do they actually have? They've got a lot of needs.
You can make a case, whether I think Vientos is good or not really doesn't matter. You can make the case that he still could be a productive player. Same thing with Brett Beatty. They're going to determine that. Okay, fine. I'll understand that. I disagree, but I'll understand that. You cannot make the case that they don't need starting pitching. They admit it. They acknowledge it. We all know it. They needed it before Senga goes down. They need it even more now.
Yeah. So I said this a month ago that I think the Mets have the worst rotation in baseball before Senga went down, and maybe that was a little bit of a stretch. But the point is, I think they're going to be in the neighborhood, unfortunately. But, I mean, I asked you before, do you believe that Cohen is cheap? And your answer was no.
Right.
Although, you voice your frustration. I get that he hasn't really spent a lot this winter. And now I'm going to ask you this. Do you believe in David Stearns?
I do.
Okay. So,
but he's starting to annoy me.
Okay, but I got
there's a sense of like
you don't think
arrogance.
did Leon Rose annoy us Knicks fans from when he first got going? Moutier, think about the bad moves that he made. He brought in Kemba Walker on one knee. He had to trade Kemba Walker and attach a first-round pick to get rid of Kemba Walker. I actually think it's amazing. Actually, as both teams, the Knicks are beginning to rise. The Mets eventually will. I think that the Met fan should really look at the Knicks as a template for how to build this thing out. Stearns is going to make mistakes, like Leon Rose did. But then, the evidence is that at the end of the tunnel, if you do things right and you let somebody who, by the way, is perceived by everybody in baseball to be brilliant and shrewd and forward-thinking and an asset, let Stearns do his job.
Robles is calling from Harlem. What's up, Robles?
Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning.
How are you?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Guys, man. With the Mets, listen, man, we all banking way too much on these young kids. Like Sal said, Vientos, I just don't see it in him. With the Williams kid, Acuna, and the other kids, if one kid pan out, we're lucky. You have to sign some players, man. You can't just be
You're not going to. You're
like
not.
Sal said, Montgomery is not going to affect the long-term process. It's not like you're something guy for 10 or 8 years. It just don't make no sense.
Well, they need pitching, Robles, and thank you for the call. They need pitching. That's the one guy. Like, I could get upset about the DH stuff, but I understand that, and that could be, like, I'm not asking for too much. Although, you should always be in the business of putting the best team possible out there to try and enhance your chances of making the postseason and going on through the postseason.
I don't agree with that. I honestly, I swear to God, I fundamentally disagree with that assertion.
That you should not always make your team better?
No, because I think sometimes by trying to, and I know what you mean, trust me, I get what you mean, but I do not agree by by taking shortcuts or making little cosmetic upgrades that will
Right.
temporarily make you better and scratch the itch, if you will, it doesn't lead anywhere. And all I've seen as a baseball fan, but all I've heard from Met fans my whole life, I just want to build something out where they're good for a couple of years in a row. This is what he's doing,
Right,
and now you guys are complaining.
But how would Jordan Montgomery hurt that process? I could answer how J.D. Martinez would hurt that process. There is no response for how Jordan Montgomery would hurt that.
Well,
How would he hurt it?
my response
Who's
would
he
be,
holding back? Which guy do we need to see that's holding back? Like, if you need Michael Lorenzen, if you maybe want Julio Teheran, you could use Jordan Montgomery. He's a major league pitcher, one who's had success in New York. He's not holding anybody back. You need pitching next year anyway. You might get him at a decent value as obviously his prices come down. Maybe you can figure it out, have deferrals so you save on some of the luxury tax. Like, a deal can be done here. There's a deal to be made. How would Jordan Montgomery hurt anything but some finances for the Mets, which they should be able to overcome because of Steve Cohen?
well, wouldn't you have to give up a comp pick because he's a free
Who
agent?
gives a crap
David
about the
Stearns
comp pick?
does. That's how he's going to build
my
this out.
God.
How do you think the Mets got? It's funny. I read something from Darryl yesterday, or over the weekend, and Darryl said, "Hey, this is the way we built our last championship team." Now, the Mets were so bad that they were able to draft very high, and that's why they got Darryl. Obviously, they drafted Doc out of Tampa. You know, you drafted Lenny, you drafted Mookie. A couple of years before that, you drafted Wally Back. We know all the names. And then you accent it with somebody like Keith and Gary and some other veteran stars, you know, and stabilizers like somebody like Ray Knight. I just think that you have to understand that. And I would be saying the same thing if Jordan Montgomery signed today with the Yankees. Like, I think Jordan Montgomery's good.
Right.
I don't think he's anything more than that. I think he's good. I don't think he's special. I mean, what does Jordan Montgomery do for you this year?
Well, he makes them a little bit better. Can
A
take
little
them out
bit,
of
but
it.
not good enough to be any good.
Scott is calling from Amityville. What's up, Scott?
Yo, Sal, what's going on? What's up, BT? How you
Hey,
guys doing
Scotty.
today?
What's up, Scott?
What's up, kid?
So, Sal, man, I'm going to dig in on you a little here. I think you got to stop with the
There
predictions.
aren't any
I mean,
comp picks on Montgomery? So,
Is
all
that
right.
true? Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
got
not
you.
sure of the whole rules.
I know
real
Blake
quick.
Snell has the 2 and the 5, but I did not know about Montgomery.
Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Go ahead, Scotty.
No, listen, man. So you're sitting there and you're screaming about how you know Mark Vientos is going to be a bad baseball player.
No,
He's
he's
a good
not
baseball
going to
player.
be. He is a
Oh,
bad
he
baseball
is,
player.
But how, is that the same way you knew the Mets were going to win the division the other year when we didn't?
No, it's different.
Stop. Let's let it play out.
It's different.
You're not an expert.
It's different. First of all, I give my opinion, Scott. You could disagree with that, and that's fine. Give me reasons.
right.
Yeah,
No,
okay. So let's play the game out here.
you
Forget
know.
about. No, Scott. Hold on. Let's have a conversation. I'm not going to hang up on you. I say Mark Vientos is a bad baseball player, and I have about 5 facts to back that up. Now, I want to hear you and your facts to why he's a good baseball player.
I'm not saying he's a good or a bad baseball player. I don't think we've had enough baseball from Mark Vientos in the major leagues.
Okay,
yet.
what position does he play?
Let's see.
What position
What's
does he play?
Mark Vientos is an infielder and a DH.
Yeah. Okay. Does he play third base?
He's
well?
not an infielder. He'll never play if he's not good enough to play infield.
I mean,
Right,
Scott.
but that's what I'm saying.
Scott.
He's a DH. Just saying, like you
No.
Again,
Right, Scott, you obviously don't. I'm trying to help you understand here how it works. There's a difference between being a good baseball player and being a potential DH. Mark Vientos is
Right.
not a good baseball player.
but
that's what I
we're
said.
talking about. We're talking about Mark. BT brought up the point. What if Mark Vientos hits 25 home runs? You say he's not a good baseball player. Does a good baseball player equate to a guy hitting maybe 230 and hitting 25 home runs?
No,
and
it does
80
not.
RBIs?
It does not. Not at his age. And thank you for the call. It does not.
Well, he's not that old. What do you mean at his age? What is he, 23?
Yeah, right.
He's 23 years old.
That's the point. You shouldn't be 23 and trying to be a DH. You've got to have some athleticism and a position. He's not good enough at first base, and obviously there's a roadblock there anyway.
Yeah.
He's not. He's a butcher
He
at
ain't playing
third base.
He can't play third base.
Okay,
in the
but
major
that's what
leagues.
they're going to do.
He's not a third baseman. That's going to be a big problem. I'm going to give you that. He cannot play third base.
So if he's not a third baseman and he's not going to play first,
Yep.
what is he?
Well,
can he
I'll
run?
tell you.
Can he throw? Can he catch?
He's not a plus runner. He could have plus power. He's got a good body, 6'4". He's going to put some more functional weight on.
Okay, so I'm hearing one thing. He might be able to hit with power.
Well, he hit with power last year a little bit for you guys.
Okay, but
so
we've
we've seen that, sure.
What was his batting average?
I don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll look it up, but it wasn't very
No,
good.
it wasn't impressive. He
Okay,
strikes out a lot.
And
I got it.
we agree that he doesn't have a position in the field. At 23 years
Yep,
old.
yep.
So you're telling me a 23-year-old kid doesn't have a position in the field. and I'm supposed to think that that's a good baseball player?
No, I know why you say that.
He's not a good baseball player.
Well,
he had 211 last year.
But he is a good hitter in succession.
211 last year.
See, to me, this is interesting enough where if this was my team, my player, I would want the answer, which is why I'm telling you Stearns is doing the right thing. And even more importantly, or maybe more directly, Cohen is really doing the right thing by allowing Stearns to do the right thing that he thinks is right, to do his job, basically, which is what he brought here to do. And I know that numbers are just numbers, and I saw a lot of the highlights last year with Vientos at Syracuse. I'm looking at his numbers from the minors. I'm going to just give you OPS in succession. 927, 979, 877, 999.
It's the minors.
But I understand that before you get to the majors, you got to prove prolific in the minors.
Now
dude.
let's do the majors.
Now
let's do the majors.
It's not, well, you can, but it's not fair. It's a cup
why
of
is that not
coffee.
fair? He's played 81 games.
Okay.
He's played 81
How many home
games.
runs does he have? How many
10.
home runs? Okay. So if
25,
you do,
20,
okay, so that projects to literally 20 home runs.
He's got
81.
He's got a 205 batting average.
This Volpe hit 212.
You want a DH in 20?
Dude, what did your catcher hit last year? He hit 210.
You want a DH at 23 years of age to hit 20 home runs? That's a big deal.
It's not optimal. What I'm saying is, I guess that I'm a little more willing to give him a chance to see if he can hit.
Fair enough.
That's it.
Understood.
He's making peanuts. He's cost nothing. He's a young guy. And by the way, Wade Boggs.
But he's not a good baseball player.
Do you know
That's
how
the
many
point.
players? But you know how many? They said the same thing about Wade Boggs. Now I'm not saying he's Wade Boggs. Obviously, totally different profile. Wade Boggs came up late because Wade Boggs was an awful third baseman. Couldn't run. Couldn't pick it. Well, look what he turned into. Oh, and he's not going to turn into Wade Boggs. All I'm saying is, I trust more than you.
Wade Boggs' first year in the big leagues, 104 games. Just a cup of coffee. 349.
I understand that, but how
Boggs wasn't a home run
old
guy at
was
5
he?
homers.
How
24.
Okay, but look at how long he was in Pawtucket in the minors. Sal, I mean this. Doesn't mean it's always right because they're not always perfect. I trust more than you.
Yeah.
I trust more than me. I trust David Stearns' ability to project a player.
Right, but they're not.
So I'm going to let him do that.
He's not projecting. He's
Sure
evaluating.
Well, but he's
evaluating.
No, that's not true because it's both. Because if you don't think that a player could possibly ultimately project well, you wouldn't waste your time evaluating him. You'd get rid of him. So that they have an interest in evaluating somebody like Vientos because they think he could project favorably.
Right, and maybe he can hit as a DH. I didn't say he couldn't. I said he's not a good baseball player, and there are facts to back that up. Like, I don't know, not having a freaking position.